Hello guys, welcome again. And today I'm going to be talking to us about how to manage project, but this time around I'm going to be using my trip to France to drive in the point of how you can design and manage a project. Stay with me. I'm going to be walking through the 5 steps of project management from initiation to close using travel to France. So I'm going to walk you through how you're able to pick your flight, your itinerary, how to manage your trips on there, how to do your change management and all of that within 15 minutes. Let's get into it. If you're joining my channel for the first time, I am Ioron-Aloho and I am a project manager. On this channel, I bring to you my lifestyle, talk about project management using very simple terms and ways for you to understand. Today, we're going to be talking about project management, but using a France trip that I went to drive down the point. Today, I'm going to be going through initiation, planning, implementation, and all of that. And I have on this list some of the list of things that I've done in France, and I'll be teaching you how to do all of that to plan for your next trip as well. Because like I always say, don't look at project management always as something that is so difficult. That is the first step to failure in project management. You want to use things as simple as planning a trip abroad for your studies or just having a holiday, and all of those things you would see how you're able to manage your project and start designing even bigger projects from there on. The first thing is, early this year, France has always been on my wish list. Always is my dream country, and I've always wanted to go there for as long as I can remember. But this year in particular, myself and my friends are talking about what countries can we possibly go to that would easily get a Schengen visa, and then we're able to explore Europe. But with work and all of that, we don't always have the luxury of doing all of those random travels. Decided to pick like 3 countries and then decide which of them to go on. Our 3 countries were France, Greece, and Spain. Greece had always been on my wish list as well, but we're looking at what countries first of all do we go into that maybe the visa process is easy and all of that. The first phase I'm looking at for you will be the initiation. So here we're doing things around idea validation, idea selection, feasibility studies and all of that. So we're looking at, for France basically, why should we go to France? Why Spain? Why Greece? What were some of the sites that we could visit in those places? Like, you're trying to pitch to me why I should go to France, or somebody else is trying to pitch to you rather why you should go to either Nigeria, why you should go to Ghana, or why you should visit South Africa. What is in South Africa that maybe you would want to pick South Africa over Ghana? So for us, that was it. What was in France for us to pick France over Greece or Spain? For me, the first thing was France has always been the top list of countries that I wanted to go to. And then when you look at the tourist trend tables, basically, France ranks like really, really high. And then we're looking at some of the museums, all of those kind of things that we could visit. You're able to like stay on the flight for like a shorter period of time, because for me, when I'm traveling, that's something I always look to. I don't like to travel to places where I would stay on air for like so long because I have a flight fright. That was another issue. So yes, flight fright for me. So I'm looking at trips where I could go to where the flight time is around 3 hours, 5 hours tops, around that. So we're looking at, okay, Spain, Greece, France, which of those fit into that criteria? Then we're looking at, maybe because we're exploring at first as well, maybe we could use train to travel. France was like one of the easiest places we could use train to travel to as well. What was like the flight cost and all of those things. So all of those things were in our initiation part where we're trying to see the locations that we could visit. We're trying to see how much is flight, what was the accommodation cost like. And then this is the summer period. Where would be the best place to spend your summer? Because in the winter time, basically, you have like different tourist attraction centers you might want to visit. In the summertime, your list would also span different. So all of those things basically made for us to start looking at what place should we select. Every single person had the place that they wanted to go to, and then we needed to vote, which is our idea selection and validation. Why this place? Why is ranked top list above Spain and Greece? And we're able to choose based on all of these things that we had noticed. Maybe it's cheaper for us to go to during the time. We're able to find cheaper flight times and all of that. We're able to get more affordable accommodation. There are better tourist attraction centers to visit during this time. And maybe it kind of like the dates fit more into our leave period at work as well. So all of those things were some of the things we looked at. So proximity of the hotel to the site visit as well, which was one of the key things, which I would say should be the key thing for anyone who is looking for tourist visit as well, because then you get to spend a lot on inter-transportation and all of those things. So we now start the planning. So I'm moving to the planning phase now. So all of the things you had done, initiation lets you see who your stakeholders are. Basically, you're looking at the cost, all of those things. You're not going in depth into putting the plan as to how you want to do all of those things, but it's like a list, like a checklist of things you want to tick off now. So this is the idea you're sticking to right now. But like, what are the other things? So what is your overall budget for this particular trip? Is it £500, £600? How many people are going? The people going are your stakeholders. Who are the people you need on this trip? So for me, I was working with a travel agency as well that my friend co-owns, and we're basically looking at, okay, you're helping us walk around visa application and all of those kind of things, and then you are looking at flight times, looking at flight for us, sending us reminders and all of those kind of things again. And then we're now looking at the end of the day, like, if we're able to do all of those things with this travel company, what is left for us to do? Who and who do we need to get on board? So for us to travel, basically, based on where we're traveling from, either London or Manchester, we need a train or we need to use our personal car to travel to that place. What would be the most feasible for us? So at the time, there was the train strike coming up during the dates that we had selected. And then we had to decide whether it was good for us to either use train and then risk staying in the airport for a longer period of time, or if we should use like our personal car. We decided, using the personal car will be more feasible. And then because we're like 4 or 5 friends, we could just contribute money together, pay for the parking at the airport, pay for fuel, and that was the decision we had made. So all of this initiation, all of this planning, all of this going around with your ideas basically lets you know that if we get into this is what we need to do. What are the risk implications? Flight time again comes in for risk implication for me. You're looking at costing. So you could plan every single thing, even the places you want to visit and all of that, and things might still go different. So if things go different, what is like your change management plan? Are you keeping like an emergency fund somewhere in case anything goes wrong? What are the kind of like food you want to eat? What's the culture like? All of those things. So you map out what the risks are. At this point, you're just doing what is called the risk selection. You're not going in depth to say, this is what the risk is going to this particular place, and this is how I want to solve the risks. You're not doing your risk metrics where you're looking at what is the probability of this happening, and if it happens, what should we do, like your mitigation plan. So at that stage, basically, we're now looking at, okay, this is what we have at this point, let's get into planning it, and then we'll move to what is called the planning stage. In the planning, all of the plans that we had, all of the list, is now that we're beginning to develop all of those documents. So if we want to use either EasyJet or whatever other airline, what is the costing between all of this? So we're trying to see what procurement we're going to employ in our flights, which is cheaper for us, and then which is going to allow us to take the kind of baggage that we also wanted to use, and then which of them gives us access to proximity to a closer airport. London is about 2 hours away from us, 2 plus something hours sometimes, and then Manchester is the closer place to where we live. So we're looking at Manchester, London, where is easier? Manchester was easier. So we now start looking at flight times for Manchester to France. And what we found was we're able to get flight times between certain dates, and then we have our car there. We now start calculating how much should each person contribute for us to be able to pay for like the airport garage, because airport garage again will range differently, right? So which of them will be more cost effective for us? How much fuel do we need to fill up like the tank for the car to take us to Manchester, leave the car for 3 days at the airport, come back, and then use that car back to York? So we have planned all of these things together. We paid the money for the visa application, and then we selected dates where we could come for appointments, got our documents ready, and all of that. And then in our planning again, basically, we began to look at what accommodation assets were there for us. We started looking at accommodation. Now, at the time where we were booking, there were certain mistakes we made, obviously, because sometimes nothing is devoid of mistakes. So there were certain mistakes we made. So we're looking at accommodation. And at the time, we're looking at mostly the cost of the accommodation rather than proximity to the site we wanted to visit. So even though site was something we had looked at the initiation part, By the time we actually got into looking at the accommodation and the dates that were kind of like working for us, at this point we had already booked the flight. It was now more of how much should we spend on accommodation. We're able to get an affordable accommodation. This was quite a distance from the site that we had intended to visit, but we decided to go with that anyways. But some mistakes you would see would happen in the implementation stage of our plan. Anyway, we looked at into travel, and a friend who had already traveled before us was telling us, oh, there's kind of like a ticket you would get that helps you with inter-travel. So you're able to get on buses, you're able to get on trains, basically once you get into France. And we now mark that down that, okay, that's something we're going to do once we get into France. We're looking at, okay, so for me, based on sites to visit, we had mapped down a place where we're going to do all of those kind of things, and I downloaded something called Get Guide. So it's an app where you're able to select the different countries you want to visit. It gives you access to different tourist attraction centers there. You're able to like tick and put them on your wish list. So I had like a map already of all the places that I wanted to visit and how much all of those places will cost. So I had this itinerary, I mapped down the price, and I saw how expensive it would be. And then I started ticking down some places that, okay, if I don't visit this place right now, I would still survive. So all of those kind of things will help for your planning. You're able to look at like maybe top 3 places that if you go to France, you really want to go to, that if you don't go to at all, it will be as though you did not travel to France at all. So we mapped out those 3 places. Disneyland was one of them. We wanted to visit the Eiffel Tower, we wanted to visit the Arc de Triomphe and the Louvre Museum. So these were some of the top places, and I think for me, the aquarium as well. So for all of these places, I put them on my wish list on the guide, calculated how much it was, and then when we had gotten that sum, we ticked down the places that we would do away with and then start paying our prices. And then we looked at food as well. What food is in France that we were able to like maybe get access to. We have language rules, people to travel with, cost for each side, transport, snacks, inconveniences like period, because I was on my period all through the duration of my travel as well. And then I traveled with a period pant. I was going to travel my menstrual cup, all of those things. So those were things that I was now documenting on my plan that, oh, these are the things that I'm going to take along with me on my packing. I was looking at maybe what pain relievers I could take to relieve menstrual cramps as well. And then, yeah, my rosary. My pack included my rosary was an essential for me, especially because of like fears that I would get and flight fright in particular. I always like to like wrap my rosary around me when I'm traveling or when I'm in any period where I feel a certain level of fear. And then how to get to the airport, obviously car and all of that. So now moving into implementation. We're all packed with all of these essentials, what I needed to wear for each of the days. We decided, should we take the camera, should we not? We decided against it because that would be a lot of baggage. And then we looked at all of the purchases that we needed to make. So for me, it was my pain reliever drugs. We needed to get like small packs of creams, perfumes that were going to be at the approximate weight and kg that you needed them to be, because there are certain things that you would take and maybe they are too much and you're not allowed to travel with them. So you're not allowed to travel with like maybe over 100 ml. So we're able to buy things that were like smally packed and we could travel with those things. We're looking at okay, so we booked a few of those sites. So one of the sites we had initially wanted to visit was the Eiffel Tower. And I don't mean Eiffel Tower like standing outside and taking pictures. Like we wanted to go in, we wanted to have lunch at Eiffel Tower. At the initial time that we had looked at that, it was around, I think, 59 to 60 pounds. And then we didn't book, but it was on our wish list. And we had paid for some of those things before travel, like Disneyland, obviously, and then the Louvre Museum and all of that. And on getting to Paris, basically, when we arrived Paris, we discovered that because we hadn't paid for some of those sites before our travel and the dates were like closer, some of those prices were doubled. So Louvre Museum, instead of maybe if you were going to pay £29, you were paying over 50 just to go there. And then for our lunch at the Eiffel Tower, I think it was around £100. And we were like, oh, this was somewhere we really wanted to go to. It was like on the top sites, but we had to map that down because, like I said, plans change. And this is something every single project manager knows how to do or should know how to do. You should be flexible. You should be able to say plans change. So you're able to change your strategies or you're able to change a way where you want to walk around something. So we're able to map that down. And we had planned as well, I think, wanted to visit certain places, but on getting to France, we discovered that we didn't have the luxury of time because we're using the inter-travel. It meant that we had to stay on the train for 2 hours, just maybe getting from our hotel to Eiffel Tower. And that was a lot of time wasted already. So by the time we're done with sightseeing and getting back to the hotel, we're already tired and all of that. So we decided, okay, some places were still top of our list, but we can't go to these places because of time. One mistake we made that kind of like cost us a lot, because for our rigs at this point, we developed like mitigation plans for them. But some of those things, again, we didn't see them because, again, some risks would happen when the project is being implemented. So during your initiation and your planning stage, you're able to select some risks that you feel would happen within your project time. You're able to devise like mitigation plans for them. But when you start the actual implementation of your project, there are certain risks that you had not anticipated or planned for that would also like kick in. So for example, the inter-travel, we're supposed to get like a travel ticket, pay for trains where we're able to use train, bus, trams, whatever it is with that particular ticket. The proper thing we should have done was buy that particular ticket as we got into France in the airport that very day. The mistake we made, we didn't do that. We went to the hotel and slept away. The next morning when we're about to like start our sightseeing and all of that, that was the day we were now contemplating whether we should now travel all the way back to the airport to get that particular ticket. Traveling back to the airport was going to take a lot of time, and for us, we had already booked like some of the sites we wanted to go to. So it was between, if you don't get a ticket, you don't go to the site. So you miss that, you don't just miss going to the site, you lose the money you also paid for that site because it doesn't get refunded. So we're like, what do we think? Which is the bigger evil? We decided not to get a ticket anymore because obviously we'd have to miss seeing the place we had booked for. So we traveled down, we're in groups. So some people obviously went to the airport to still get their tickets. For we who had already booked for a site we wanted to see already, because like I said, I like to plan things. So when I plan things, I make plans ahead. I try as much as possible to pay for most of those things already before going to a place to avoid like being stranded and all of that. What happens with that again is some of these inconveniences can shoot in. So we went to a sightseeing place. We used an Uber. So Uber was faster for us, about like 20-30 minutes. The downside was Uber was pretty expensive. Uber is so expensive in Paris. So if you're going to Paris, it will make sense for you to get a ticket immediately you get into the airport, because going back and then going back to get it again at the airport is a lot of wasted time as well, and you're going to spend a lot. And then you want to also look at, when you're going to France, getting the ticket is good, but you also want to look at how you want to spend your time. Because if you have the ticket, there are certain places where at the end of the day, we got a certain level of ticket, but not the type that covered every single thing. But we got ticket for at least bus travels and then trams. It didn't cover like trains outside of Paris where we were seeing most of the things we wanted to see. So what happened was, even for those who like had the ticket with them, there were certain times when they still had to like pay for the Uber fare. So they were spending a lot still. We spent a lot as well, because for the Uber, we're basically spending 20 minutes, 15 minutes to the places we wanted to move around. The train times were like 2 hours, 3 hours. So a lot of the places we wanted to visit were either rushed through it, or we couldn't even visit a lot of places because the inter-travels also didn't work really well. So that's the downside. So those are things you want to research much more if you're planning for your trip. So yes, some of these are plans changed, we cancelled some, we spent loads of hours, and then our spending increased, which is one of the downsides that I spoke about like the last time in my last video. My last video was around stakeholder and budgeting and how it impacts your project. And this is how improper planning also impacts your project. So for us, there are certain things you would forget, obviously, and one mistake can lead you to spending overboard. So for us, that meant that if we had initially budgeted spending £600 on this trip, we spent over £1,000 because we spent much more on transportation. Some of the things we wanted to enjoy, like food, we didn't get to really experience some of those things as well because we didn't have time to go to like some of those restaurants to eat better food and all of that. And then you see your clothes. which is like the final stage of your project. So because you're doing your implementation, monitoring and controlling, so you would hear me saying something like, because of this particular thing we're using Uber, so you're checking, but you also want to check like the quality of your travel still. So even though you're spending a lot now, or you're spending less, or instead of using train you're using Uber, or instead of using Uber you're using train, or instead of going to Eiffel Tower to have lunch, you're having lunch on a cruise, has it impacted the level of peace you wanted to have on your trip, or the level of fun you wanted to have on your trips? So those inconveniences that are happening, those things that are shooting out, those risks, all of those changes that are occurring, are they changing your project? Are they changing or impacting your travel in such a way that you're able to get low quality at the end of the day? So for me, I would say I was pretty able to manage all of those expectations. So every single thing that happened on the trip, and a lot of things happened to make the trip go like sideways, but I was always able to like manage my emotions first of all, because this was a personal trip for me. My emotions had to come in play, as well as a quality that I needed to control and manage. So I still was able to be fun. I still was able to be happy with the things that I was doing and the things I was getting. I was still able to experience Eiffel Tower in a certain way, even though I didn't have lunch there. I was still able to taste like some kind of local French food, even though I didn't go to like some of the restaurants that I had penned down to visit. I still was able to enjoy the cruise. I wanted the cruise like in the night time. We still had that, not like it was evening time, so not like really night, but I still got like the fun of it. We still visited the Eiffel Tower like the daytime and the nighttime to see what both views compared to. I didn't get a lot of nice pictures in the nighttime, but I was able to inhale, get like the experience of it, have fun with friends that were there as well. So that was a quality that I had controlled. If this was like a project where it's a project anyway, but if this was another project where you're working in a company or an organization, those are like things you're also checking. Like you're working on an app and certain issues happen. Is your app still able to deliver on those things you said it would deliver on? Is your app still able to like work overtime, and even though it's overheating, not shut down? What is the quality like? So you want to control like those qualities. Those are the things. So that's why in project you have like the 5 stages, but you mostly work as a 4th stage kind of project, because in your implementation you're doing the monitoring, you're doing the controlling. So you're ensuring that those things that are coming out in your project that will cause issues, you're basically working on them. You're getting feedbacks, you're testing your product and then refining them, sorting out some of those issues that are coming in there as well. I was on my period all through the duration of my trip, and I had my period pants, I had a menstrual cup, and I had pads as well. So all of these things kept me in check. So if I was in a place for a certain number of time, I would know that, okay, I set an alarm on my phone. I was changing every 3 hours, and all the places I was going to, the first thing I would do is map out where's like the toilet. So once it's time for me, I'm able to like rush there, change, and there was no time that I was stained. I was able to take the pain relievers, which helped with like the cramps and all of those kind of things. So I was still able to enjoy my trip regardless of all of those things that came up. Now we come to close. So in your project close, you're looking at, you want to check your expenses, you want to reconcile your spendings, you want to get your invoices, make your payments, you want to check your packages, confirm your flights and transport, you return back and pay, and then celebration. You're checking your expenses, basically. What was the initial amount you had planned to spend on this trip? And at the end of the day, what did you spend? So you want to reconcile like those spendings. Where did you take money from? Maybe you had savings, or you had like an emergency fund, or a friend lent you money because you had spent overboard on the trip. Then you want to now like start paying back those monies. Maybe you used supplies in the hotel that you were not immediately paying for. At this point, you're paying for all of those things. Maybe you need, or maybe you're on a sponsored trip by your workplace or something, and you need to like show receipt for the places you've gone to. You're getting all your receipts at this point. You're writing in your journal, for example, because this was personal for me, how you felt about the trip, the feedback to maybe all the supporting companies and everybody who was there with you, how the planning was, what you think they should do better. You want to reflect on all the things that basically happened on the trip, what you would do better next time. In the project, this is like your lessons learned document, where you use that document, and next time for your project, you're able to use those lessons to make your project better. For you, you're reflecting and putting them in your journal. So next time, if you're traveling to France or Greece or be it Spain, you know what to do better and able not to incur extra expenses, what to do to enjoy your trip better, some of the research that you didn't do properly when traveling to France that you should do better now when you're traveling to another country. And then at the end of the day, you're just able to come back home and enjoy yourself, celebrate that, oh, you're able to like tick this off your wish list. And by that celebrating, you've done like what is called your project close, because you have all of your feedback document, your report, your unaudited financial statement, you have all of your receipts and all of those things. So this, in a simple way, is how you plan and manage a short, basically France trip. But this is not like in-depth, this is like basic of what you should do if you're planning a trip. So this is how you design and manage it. So when you're doing a bigger project, these are some of the things that you want to start looking into as well. Your risk selection, your change management, and how to do basically little of those things. As our project grows, and as basically our videos, as I keep making more videos, I would go more in depth and start looking at all of these project phases one after the other, so that we're able to spend more in-depth time on, say, initiation, for example. So we're able to break down what initiation is and the steps that you're able to make, and we're going to use real life projects to do this as well. So next time we're going to be looking at what initiation is in a project, and how to ensure that your initiation involves good idea validation, selection, your feasibility studies, and how to draft a winning pitch. So meet you next time. I am Gunan. Make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, and share my video to all of your friends who are interested in project management, lifestyle, and basically just anything fun.